Welcome to the SABC News COVID-19 Global Wrap, where myself, Babalola Phaka, and my colleague Busisiwe Khatebe bring you highlights of news which dominated headlines with regards to the coronavirus pandemic. But before we delve into it, let us have a look at some global stats. The world currently sits at over 32 million confirmed COVID-19 cases, with over 23.9 million recoveries and over 980,000 deaths. South Africa has over 660,000 cases, with over 595,000 recoveries and over 16,000 deaths.
In South Africa, experts say while the second surge of COVID-19 infections is expected in South Africa, it might not be as bad as what other countries are experiencing. Deputy Director at the Clinical HIV Research Unit at Wits University, Dr. Francesca Conradi, says South Africans seem to have a better than expected herd immunity, and this might help weather the impact of a possible resurgence. And lastly, Health Minister Dr. Zweli Mkhize reminded South Africans to download the COVID Alert SA app on their cell phones to help them keep aware of COVID-19 cases that they could potentially be exposed to. This after South Africa entered into Alert Level 1 national lockdown on Monday, allowing the resumption of more economic activity. On to the rest of Africa, the continent has now recorded over 1.4 million confirmed COVID-19 cases with over 1.1 million recoveries, and the death toll stands at 34,758. The World Health Organization has warned that over 80% of COVID-19 cases in Africa could be asymptomatic. WHO Regional Director for Africa, Dr. Matshidiso Moeti, says that while confirmed COVID-19 cases and death rates remain low in many African countries, early results in some communities suggest a higher number of infections than those reported. Chairperson of the African Union, Cyril Ramaphosa, used his address at the United Nations General Assembly to call on world leaders to help African countries and their developing economies recover from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. And lastly, in the Middle East, Israel announced significant tightening of restrictions during its second general lockdown as numbers of new COVID-19 cases continue to rise. These include strict limits on protests and prayer groups and a wider closure of places of work. And the United Arab Emirates will resume issuing entry permits, but the issuance of new work visas will remain suspended, the official Emirates news agency reports.
And in international news, the United States of America reached a new grim milestone this week by surpassing 200,000 COVID-19 related deaths. In Wisconsin, Governor Tony Evers on Tuesday declared a new public health emergency and extended a mandatory face mask rule into November to help tackle the virus surge. According to a Reuters tally, Wisconsin has experienced one of the highest percentage increases of COVID-19 cases nationwide over the past 2 weeks and has the second highest rate of positive tests in the nation. And health officials in Brooklyn, New York, said an uptick in infections there and other areas are cause for significant concern. Meanwhile, during his address at the United Nations General Assembly, U.S. President Donald Trump has called for punishment against China, who he blames for infecting the world with the coronavirus. Trump said China has to be held to account, further claiming that it continuously disregarded the safety and well-being of all nations. In Latin America, Mexico surpassed the 700,000 COVID-19 infections mark this week, although authorities acknowledge that the number may be higher. Mexico currently has the fourth highest number of virus deaths in the globe. In Asia, traces of the coronavirus were found on the packaging of imported squid in the northeastern province of Jilin, and authorities have urged anyone who may have bought it to avail themselves for testing. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi called for reduced local lockdowns in order to help the country's ailing economy. India, which is the second worst hit country in the world, currently stands at over 5.8 million confirmed cases with over 92,000 deaths. And finally, in Europe, Prime Minister Boris Johnson imposed a new set of restrictions that could probably run for the next 6 months to tackle a fast-spreading second wave of COVID-19. Meanwhile, latest figures in England's testing and tracing have revealed a tripling of cases since late August, with over 19,000 people testing positive from 10 to 16 September.
For the latest updates on the coronavirus, visit sabcnews.com.